Welcome to another episode of Canny Conversations podcast, and I'm delighted to welcome a very local person to Birmingham, somebody that I've known for more than a decade, individual who is leading the way in terms of the agenda with women into self-employment, diversity, equity, inclusion, governance, as well as entrepreneurship per se. It's none other than Sophie Azam. Sophie, welcome to Canny Conversational Podcast.
Wow, thank you, Safaraz. It's such a pleasure to be here.
It's been a while that we've been talking about, meeting up and so forth and getting this done, particularly this year. It was my ambition to actually, for us to get this recorded. We've had a number of conversations previously anyway, but there's nothing like, sitting down and chewing the fat, as to say, and talking about not just in terms of the journey, but also in terms of, the sector as a whole and really just an open conversation. Hopefully we'll have that today.
Absolutely. I can't wait to do this because I'm doing it with one of my role models. And I look up to you, Safaraz, and I'm very, very excited to have this conversation with you and to see, hear your thoughts about my journey thus far. I know we've known each other for a long time, but, what you've done and what you've achieved in the business world it has definitely been sort of my dream to follow that path. So
thank you. Thank you, Sophie. Thank you, Sophie. So let's talk a little bit about that, because as I said, there's a few hats that you currently wear and particularly in terms of the recent journey that you've had in terms of entrepreneurship. So if you explain it to somebody that probably doesn't know you, say, take you from there. I mean, there's a lot of people that do know you from the sector, and a big part of our audience is going to be there. But maybe for those who are unfamiliar with your work, talk to us a little bit about the business interests that you've had, the ventures that you've been involved with, and what do they do?
Well, I've always had a passion for education, as you know. Because I think education is it's an avenue to change people's circumstances and livelihoods. I say this time and time again when I'm interviewed. Freedom, to achieve true freedom, it's about being educated well. So education has always been in my blood. And I think it comes from being a daughter of an immigrant and, parents coming from Pakistan and not having education or the option of education back in those days in Pakistan. So growing up in a household where education is at the forefront and it changes your circumstances, I think that has been the driving force of my career. And business and education goes hand in hand, Safaraz. And for me, I'm a big champion at the moment, and people have probably heard of my stance on how entrepreneurship skills should be at the forefront of the British education system at a very, very early stage. And I think the two passions, business and education, come so naturally to me. And it really started from my experiences from, being part of the British education system to understanding the education system from a regulatory perspective to, how can people make their dreams come through the power of education and skills, and how can they drive business, and how can business be a force for good? All of that fits. It summarizes who Sophie Azam is. It summarizes my personality and my credentials and my integrity. I believe the power of education and business could change the world for a better.
Okay, fantastic. So we have obviously the awarding organisation, Ignite Qualifications, Ignite Quals. You have your Skills for Startup, and then you have the Edu Eco Plus, EE Plus network as well. So if we can, maybe break down each one of those. So let's talk about Ignite Quals.
What a fascinating company to start with under COVID-19. So much changed when COVID-19 hit us. I was a consultant working for a number of award organisations, helping and supporting them understand regulation and helping them to understand qualification development, the difference qualifications can make to learners. And then all of a sudden COVID-19 hit and that work dried up. And I'm thinking, and I'm out in Dubai with my sister. The only place you could travel to was Dubai. That was on the green list. right? So we're out in Dubai, it's still COVID-19. And my sister says to me, you've always wanted to start your own sort of exam board, or you always wanted to start your own business. And mum always wanted you to be a leader because you're a natural born leader. And Ignite Quals was born in Dubai on a beach. And, we had this sort of, we already had this data that soft skills are very important. And they are the foundation of how we conduct ourselves in our careers. So soft skills were very, very important, especially for young people that are not academically successful. And the heart and soul of Ignite Quals' vision was to put soft skills back on the map. And I looked at, character building, emotional intelligence. I looked at how we communicate. How should young people communicate? How do business leaders want to see young people? What would capture a business leader to help a young person? And that's how we started to develop some of these courses around building the confidence back in these young people that didn't get their GCSEs or fell through the net, are on the streets. And we built those. And the dilemma we had was that in order for some of the private training providers to work with Ignite Quals, they wanted the funding and the only way you could get that funding was if you were Ofqual approved. But a lot of the courses that I was looking into and how the architect of those courses were going to function were a little bit more innovative than your traditional qualification. So we sort of hit a brick wall there and a barrier. But we attracted an American company and they wanted to do some work with Ignite Quals for their young people coming into the UK market and starting a master's degree at a British university or starting a career within the UK. So we worked with them on their qualifications, and that generated quite a lot of money for Ignite Quals in terms of qualifications advisory. But in the meantime, I was looking at entrepreneurship skills for young entrepreneurs, for young people, but also looking at what the startup's nature was and what the issues were around skills and education with that. So as soon as we built the revenue for Ignite Quals, we knew that after that it would be difficult to go ahead with Ignite Quals without the Ofqual approval or the regulatory approval. So we penetrated £120,000 or $140,000 into launching a massive 12-month pilot study campaign on education skills for young entrepreneurs and advanced startups. So we gave birth to Skills for Startups after that project was complete and the revenue was coming through. And now we are absolutely fully engrossed in real innovative education, alternative education, and foundation to advance skills and education that are supporting founders to turn them into high-performing founders. And it touches on diverse leadership and young entrepreneurship. So we're still doing young people's education, but in a different sense. Now, these are young people who we spoke to under Ignite Qual saying to us that they're very creative. They're ideas generation. They're part of the ideas generation, by the way. And the reason why they're not very comfortable with academia and why they won't go to college or university or go back to redo their GCSEs is because they want to become entrepreneurs. They're creators. They like to create ideas. And that's where that's what we focused on. So Ignite Quals gave birth to Skills for Startups through our research and data. There was no point us continuing with Ignite Quals. We had to exit. At that point we had to exit, and we have exited now, and we've sold that business, and we sold it for the prime purposes of turning Skills for Startups into a franchise model globally, and to take it to a much higher level, attracting 100,000 startups by 2034. It's going to take a lot of money and a lot of commitment and loyalty, and that's where we're at, and that's what we've achieved in the last, should we say, 3 years.
Yeah, absolutely. You put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears in in terms of working on the awarding organisation, Ignite Quals, and as you said, you've exited, but you have made an impact because that awarding body, awarding organisation was, in many ways, seen as sort of a fast-paced, sort of consumer-centric sort of brand, a little bit more innovative, changing the way. Obviously, there's a lot of legacy awarding organisations that are working in our sector, and you're coming in a little bit more, more innovative in some aspects of it.
Yeah. And I think awarding organisations in this country are doing such a fantastic job, but because they're so heavily regulated by Ofqual, it's very difficult to utilize research and data in a different way.
Yeah.
The way I did with Ignite Quals. The courses that I designed were a lot smaller, very small, but they were much needed because what these youngsters were saying to me is it's the attention span. So if we create exactly the same type of qualification model that we do with a typical GCSE or A-level or any vocational qualification, there's a higher chance that they would actually fail an Ignite Quals qualification. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So we were doing something, we were experimenting. I was experimenting with a couple of our board members and our freelancers as well that were on board advising us. And we just experimented with really tiny courses that target certain areas of your skill spectrum. And it could be something like a lack of communication could be the only thing a learner needs to actually upskill on. And that's what we're trying to sort of influence, the government in this country is that learners, predominantly learners that fall through the spectrum and are part of the NEET, the NEET community, they're not unintelligent, they just learn differently.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we have to have an appetite for shorter targeted skill-centric courses. That's what Ignite Quals was. That was the vision.
Yeah. So if you want to try and break it down a little bit in terms of, you're sitting on the beach in Dubai and you're thinking about, this may be an opportunity for me to get into, start a business.
Yeah.
And, you come from a governance compliance background. You're an expert in that marketplace. You're a consultant that consults others, helps people turn around, face difficulties and so forth. And you've got a well-known reputation within that. And now you've always had the passion to start a business. And, you're sitting there talking to your sister and saying, let's do this. How difficult did you think it was? And how difficult is it how was the reality compared to what you thought?
Yeah. So, believe it or not, setting up Ignite Quals was the easiest part because I understood the conditions of recognition for a model like that. So having worked with Ofqual, having been part of the regulation side and then being part of the consultancy side for awarding organisations, that skill set, that combined skill set made it easier for me to design Ignite Quals, design the governing board, design the policies and procedures. I already had the understanding before designing an award organisation from doing it myself on the other side of the fence or consulting and advising on the other side of the fence. But when I fell in love with alternative education and I spoke to young learners, I looked into the Prince's Trust. I did some sort of volunteering work with different foundations, not just in the West Midlands, but I looked into London as well. And I was invited to many events which focused on young people's talent. That's when it clicked that Ignite Quals couldn't be a traditional awarding organisation. But we can't go any further with Ignite Quals because at 2.3 million pounds of contracts we brought in from private training providers where people have said they want to work with Ignite Quals and they want to put their learners through our powerful courses, unique courses which we discuss with them, can only move forward if we were recognised by Ofqual. So it's not the fact that I couldn't get recognition for Ofqual because I am ex-Ofqual, I'm their prodigy. They trained me up to gain recognition, and I gained recognition for a number of award organisations that are now actually in the market, and they're doing really well with Ofqual and their regulation reputation. So for me, it was I fell out of love with traditional academia. I fell out of love with the way regulation dictates how we should be designing a qualification, because somehow a civil servant understands how a 14, 15-year-old should be taught than us, than the learner themselves. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
14, 15, 15-year-olds understand whether it's for them, whether academic is for them, whether GCSEs are for them. And then it's too late, because once they've taken the GCSEs and they've not got their GCSEs that gets them to the next level of their career, it's too late. But what if Ignite Quals could actually penetrate from 14 years onwards to coincide our courses with GCSEs and A-levels to provide them with the right soft skills that business leaders are looking for? It would be a game changer for those learners. They learn public speaking on Saturdays and Sundays to improve their communication. It supports them with their English, the English GCSE. They learn about negotiation skills. They can sit in a group with their students and lead a team. All of these courses and these skills that we were focusing on from a research and data perspective complemented the GCSE pathway and the A-level, the traditional academic pathway. And it gives you courage, makes you work ready, gives you the confidence that even if you didn't go on to university, after your A-levels or whether you did a BTEC or whatever, you were already prepared by Ignite Quals on the critical, 5 or 6 top skills that you need that businesses are looking for. They don't want to retrain young people. They want young people to come in with the right skill set. And that's why we developed Ignite Quals. It's a shame we've exited, but I think I was meant to start skills for startups. I was meant to look at entrepreneurship, and I was meant to look at championing entrepreneurship skills right from day one for people.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is the fact that because of the experience that you had in the sector, you understood the sort of the challenges, the pitfalls, the problems that were ahead. Partly you predicted them, partly you knew the fact that this is going to be a long, arduous task as well.
Yeah.
And you also knew some of the variables that you had to deal with. That saying that, did it work out to be harder or the same, or just that whole journey of striving to get this right? Because it's been five years now, isn't it? 5 years.
I think it's been like I've said on a previous podcast. It has been a tough journey, and a journey that has had an impact on my mental health. It's not easy to have a unique perspective on how society should be functioning. But people don't understand this, because I came from a conservative career with regulation, a very conservative career working in the government. You have to be very conservative to be a civil servant in this country. And now they just don't understand how I've gone from that strict conservatism around, regulation, standards, that really narrow definition of what good looks like in a qualification or an outcome for that learner, to now saying, well, actually, you don't have to learn like that. You can learn completely differently to make your dreams come true. You can go through a different avenue and pathway. Yeah, you don't have to have gone through, like Richard Branson dropped out after before he even achieved his GCSEs back in the day, and now he's a multi-billionaire. Bill Gates, none of them. Bill Gates, Larry Namer, all these people, and Larry Namer we speak to. He's part of the San Diego speaker list, and all these highly powerful entrepreneurs, multi-billionaires. Steve Jobs never did an MBA. There is a gap between traditional academia when you're looking at launching something or an idea or a business concept, and the reality of actually giving people practical solutions, practical case studies, actually pushing people to do it. A lot of our young people that we've spoken to under Ignite Quals could do it, could create it. But you give them a test on maths or a test on physics. Even Albert Einstein failed his physics, remember that? But he came up with the atom. So that is a classic case study an example that I use when people challenge me around this, because they say, oh, well, alternative education, what can you really get out of it? Well, Albert Einstein failed his physics.
Yes. So you sold, you've exited Ignite Quals. In terms of the gap that you saw, is what's the market like now for awarding organisations? There's a lot of providers in the marketplace, a lot of endpoint assessment organisations.
Yeah.
It's no longer just 2 or 3 names. There's many providers now out there. How competitive a marketplace is it? You come from an awarding organisation background. You understand it. You understand the marketplace.
Yeah.
Talk to us about the sector.
Yeah, I think the awarding organisation, it's great to see that customers who are learners, by the way, have, they can see that there isn't just one awarding organisation that we should be talking about. Back in the day when we were at school, it was about AQA, OCR, it's the top, the top 5.
Top 4 or 5, yeah.
But now when you're listening to learners and you're listening to parents and people from the training industry, they talk about those smaller specialist awarding organizations that have that intimate connection with the end users. They truly understand a particular area in the market position, whether it's, security or personal training. That is, I think, a game changer for the British education system, to have more smaller awarding organisations that know the ins and outs of certain specialisms and careers. Yeah. I think that's very, very important. It shouldn't really always be about AQA, OCR, Pearson. I think the bigger you become, the less connected you are with the reality of how education is evolving. Yeah. And the biggest thing that I've recently looked at is how UAE, how ahead they are with their sort of education and awarding sector. Now they're teaching AI skills at the ages of 4. And when I was debating this a few years back around AI and how I think if we're going to be ahead of the game, children need to start very early. Only now are we now starting to get grips with AI skills as being a real sort of society game changer, and it's changing the way we look at things and how typical careers like customer service and finance, things like that, how's that going to operate through AI? I think young learners and young people coming through now, they're going to need an understanding of that. So I predict that there will be an awarding organisation that will purely specialise in AI skills. I think that is going to come through, and it's going to be a huge game changer for that awarding organisation. So I'm yet to see an AO that purely just looks at the mechanics, the principles, the practices of AI skills. And we need that. That's the gap that I'm looking at very closely at the moment. It's not going to be us, by the way. We won't do it because we're too busy with skills for starters. But I'm just giving your audience a bit of a insight into what's happening in the Middle East, certainly the UAE, and what could potentially happen in Great Britain around AI and skills, because there's a lot of courses out there, but there's not an awarding organisation that actually can say that it's a genius at creating qualifications to promote AI skills.
Okay. I mean, you've got some experience of international climates and so forth. Obviously, United States, the UAE market, Malaysia as well, and you've got an awareness of how people see the UK qualification system or the system that we have here. Talk to us about that perception. How is UK awarding organisations regarded as outside?
I think equally, nationally and internationally, education is the biggest powerhouse right now. There is no real sort of, from an appetite perspective of quality education, no one is denying that there has to be a standard. Everybody's competing with great careers and great jobs in the future, the great jobs. So countries are all invested in education right now. And from my perspective, the difference is that the British education system, and I've spoken about this in the US side, is that certainly the US, they look up to Britain. They look up, when we talk about the British education system abroad in Malaysia, or we talk about it in the United States of America, they look at the British education system, they put it on a pedestal. That's the benchmark. Everybody in Malaysia and the USA that I've spoken to from an education perspective wants to, send their children to Britain for their master's degrees. They want to send they would wish they'd had a experience with Britain's education system. Mm-hmm. They want that experience. There is no shall we say, even after COVID-19, there has been no change in Britain's pecking order with education.
Absolutely.
I think it's this way around. I think they want to come to Britain more. They want to learn from us as much as possible. And sometimes, the top universities are always Oxford and Cambridge, aren't they? But they're starting to talk about the Birmingham University because it's top 20 in the international spectrum. People abroad understand. I was talking to an Australian client the other day, and he said, "Oh, I spoke at the University of Birmingham one year," and I said, "Oh, that's where I graduated." Normally, people talk about University of Cambridge and Oxford, but this top business leader knew the University of Birmingham. So, as you can see, we do have some great role model education institutes in this country that are now world renowned. So that's where I see that can only strengthen the UK and the UK economy, I think.
Okay. So you mentioned the fact that you're all invested in to Skills for Startups. You've exited out of the awarding organisation primarily because of your sort of belief in the Skills for Startups agenda, and what that is, what the impact that you're looking to make. You talked about 100,000 individuals that you want to support as well. But let's delve a little bit more into Skills for Startups. How would you describe that to somebody who's not aware of the brand?
Yes, the Skills for Startups is Britain's very first mobile business school, and it utilises the business roadshow model to put on days of empowerment around the UK, now globally, to support early ventures or advanced startups to turn them into high-performing startup business models. So Skills for Startups came about from one particular factor, and that factor was that 90% of startups fail in this country and 98% of startups fail in the United States of America. And I think on average, the statistic is around 83% of startups fail globally. So we know that there is an issue there. What our research and data found that education and skills, if you build strong foundations at the start as a founder or an entrepreneur, early inception venture, it can elongate the success of that particular business model. So utilizing my education background, my regulatory background, my background in understanding targeted skills, I developed Skills for Startups. Its main vision is to create 100,000 startups by 2034 and reduce the failure rate by 10%. This is very important that this business sees a strong, robust outcome from its investment into supporting founders, supporting entrepreneurs. Our target is to create high-performing founders and then looking at their business models. I believe that low energy, underconfidence, a lack of investment in your skills impacts the likelihood of a startup not surpassing the 3-year mark. So in the first year, 20% of businesses fail. After 3 years, you only see about 38% of startups that actually become SMEs. So that's a pretty dire situation, and it impacts the economy. It's not great for the economy. When we create jobs, so if the more and more startups succeed and we create jobs, we pay corporation tax, that strengthens our local economies and our national economies, and now international global economies. So it's in our favour to back the great British startup business story, and that's what we're promoting at the moment.
Okay, so just to go through this, there's a lot of information there. So 98% in the United States, 90% here in the UK. You've given us some reasons for failure. One of them is low energy.
Low energy.
So low energy of the founder.
Yes.
So the founder runs out of energy, or is just the enthusiasm isn't there? So talk to us a little bit about this low energy. How do you describe that?
Typically, entrepreneurs and founders are working non-stop, sometimes 100+ hours a week. And when you're a single founder like I am, I'm a solo founder. I don't have a co-founder. I don't have a business partner. Energy, I am at risk of losing energy. I'm at risk of burning out. So if founders are working non-stop, and there's huge pressure points and pressure from boards and your own the impact that the funding you've put in, your own money, your livelihood is all on the line.
Yeah, family pressure as well, and again, the pressure that we put on ourselves in terms of achieving the success. So all of those constraints.
No mentorship. Yeah. No ecosystem to drive from. Exactly.
The support isn't there.
Yeah. So the statistic is that the energy levels of founders actually are counterproductive when you're looking at investment. Does that make sense? Yeah. So if you're not showing enthusiasm consistently, energy consistently, and I get this as well, by the way, because Skills for Startups is still a startup. So if my governing board feel that I'm not marketing enough, or I'm not pushing and driving this agenda enough day in, day out, the energy's not consistent, the enthusiasm's not there, it dips down, it goes up, down, that people...
It's consistency that wins,
exactly.
Isn't it?
It's consistency.
If you're not consistent, you've got no chance.
Yeah. So we've basically come up with that sort of program for startups to ensure that they are rationing energy. There is a there's no rule against resting. This is what I keep saying. Yeah. It's okay to rest. You don't have to be making securing clients day in, day out, but you have to have that. You have to be accountable for that. As a founder, you are accountable for your energy levels, and people who are testing you and you are presenting in front of, they can see that. They can see if your enthusiasm isn't there, if your energy level has dipped, if you're not on your A game, you could lose investment, you can lose clients. So it's very, very important that when you're starting out...
You need people around you that can challenge you and support you at the same time.
At the same time,
getting that balance of challenge and support. So low energy is one. What are the others, Sophie, if you don't mind?
We found, there's quite a few actually. Couple of factors that perhaps your audience need to know about is recently we've come across cases where there's been co-founder disputes that have led to startup failures, perhaps even early exits for some because of disputes and conflicts. This is a typical one that we've come across is not getting the funding on time. So running out of money and not predicting that forecast of when you're going to be running out of money when you should have brought the investor in. We are teaching the art and the science behind that through our business shows at the moment. How to be clever with your budgets. There are some, for instance, the recent case study we came across, which was quite fascinating, Safaraz, is that Richard Branson had 0 pence when he started Virgin Airlines. Virgin Atlantic. He started with one plane. And he did it very strategically. He sold tickets very early on for the flight of that plane, which started the roller coasted the money. So that is a classic example where how people always say, "What's your budget?" If you're starting a startup, what's your budget? Well, there's an example where Richard Branson had 0 budget for Virgin Atlantic when he started and had 0 experience. In understanding aviation, right? And now he's that Virgin Atlantic is worth close to £1 billion. So the point I'm trying to make here is there's a bit of a conflict here. They say that you need funding to survive, so you need your own money on the line.
It's a catch-22.
Yeah. Or you need to have strong business acumen. So you must have all your ducks in a row before you launch. You must know in a creative way how you're going to get that money to launch an idea so that you can pay your mortgage and you can pay your bills. So what we're finding at the moment is that if you're not clued up on how you're spending and what your costs are, you're very quickly going to fall in the failure rate. And that is such a huge issue in this country. And there's not enough financial literacy courses at that foundation level. We're not teaching the value of functional budgeting. The way America does it, and I've spoken to this about on the American podcast, is they have that lemonade stand analogy where they teach kindergarten kids to sell lemonade on the streets.
Yeah, it's the American dream. It's the American dream, isn't it?
It's the American dream.
Yeah, yeah.
We don't have that.
Yeah.
Where is the British dream? That's what Skills for Startups is
It's
saying.
not necessarily part of our ethos.
Yeah.
Although you did say earlier on that, obviously you're from an immigration background, we find that there's as a percentage more immigrants going into self-employment and business because of that drive to achieve more.
Our uncles, all they started a Tupperware business factory, and now it's every Tupperware in your household is built by my great uncle's children now. So, and they are now multimillionaires. So they started with nothing.
Yeah.
That is the typical, should we say, immigrant dream story, isn't it?
Yeah.
They come to the UK, they start with one shop, they now have a franchise everywhere. So I think we do have something similar, but you have to look at it from a holistic point of view. From a holistic point of view, excuse me, it's harder.
It's harder, yeah.
It's harder now to do what our elders did.
But however, with the advent of obviously AI and access to information is possibly slightly easier, and also, as you said, you as a sole entrepreneur, as a single individual entrepreneur, would you say it's a little bit easier having access to some of that knowledge and information, and also at the same time being able to use AI type tools to help you grow?
Yeah. I mean, firstly, I look at AI all the time. I look at ChatGPT and other AI systems, and we're testing one. We're testing one with an Australian founder as well. AI is fantastic, by the way, because you can automate very early on in your startup journey, year zero. Let's say year 0 to year 2. You can't afford staff, and if you do bring in staff, the chances are you maybe prematurely brought in staff, and you've not looked at the vision beyond that. But the clever startups from year 0 to year 2 are using AI for their consumer service, their marketing, content creation. All of that is now being done by AI, and what would have taken you hours and hours and hours to create manually can be done through AI in seconds now. Yeah. Does that make sense? So from that perspective, now, certainly from now onwards, startups are in a very good position with 0 pence in the bank to actually use ChatGPT to build things now, to utilize ChatGPT in all sorts of ways to strike deals, to negotiate, to get to that client very quickly through a robotic system. So all of this is now happening. Lead generation is happening through AI systems. Now you don't necessarily need a big sales team very early on, or a sales consultancy firm to come in and take thousands of pounds of your budget. That can now be done by you as a founder, or a couple of staff members, if you're lucky, can utilize the AI system to save a lot of money in the long term. But at the same time, we need to be clued up as well, because investors and people who want to work with you, they still want to see your identity. They don't want AI to replace your identity, your vision, your mission, your business strategy, your marketing strategy. If you overuse AI to do all of that, it's not an organic business. It's not an organic startup model. We still want to know who is Safaraz Ali, not Safaraz Ali the robot. Yeah. Who is Safaraz Ali? What is his business about? What, as an investor, what do I get out of your business? What makes you so unique? What problems are you solving? I mean, AI can't solve the world's problems. Oh. Your business has to remain organic and authentic, but it's how you cleverly utilize AI and have that perfect marriage with AI to elongate your business journey successfully. That's what we're looking at Skills for Startups, because at the moment, the failure rate is the failure rate. Can the AI system reduce the failure rate? Can AI, the national AI agenda, reduce the failure rate for startups, because it's turning into your customer service advisor, it's turning into your business development manager, you see where I'm going with this? So there is there's pros and cons.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, utilizing these tools and so forth, the world is a different place as well, and that's got to be part of the agenda of any conversation that you have with a startup in terms of, firstly, their initial knowledge, the sort of initially their assessment, are they aware of it?
Yeah.
What level are they? Because people think that, sometimes they think that they've got a little bit of knowledge, but some people know that they're not using it, and other people think that they're using it, but it's very limited in terms of what they use.
Yeah.
And they don't have really the parameter of what good looks like, like you said earlier on. Then we've got the element of, that whole trajectory of the journey for the startup, because obviously anybody who's gone through it really understands that there's many pitfalls. It is a moving feast, really. It's a moving beast in terms of changes that are happening, and you've got to be adaptable. And so the skills for startup model, where's the business model in that? Is that looking to get revenue from the start, the individuals who are starting, or talk to us about the business model itself.
Yeah, we have a very strong intellectual property, but I can explain to you how we currently are sort of mapping out skills for startups. So we did a pilot business show. Well, we did about 4 business shows in 2014 throughout the year. You know about this. And we have to, and the reason why we did that is we wanted to prove the concept. Yeah. Is there an appetite for something like this? It's not University College Birmingham. It's not University College. We're not a university. We're not a traditional business school, but we are a business school-like style model that goes around the country and is promoting best practice, good practice around startup founders. And we achieved about 250 startups last year. And they, percentage of them from a research perspective are engaging with skills for startups on a number of issues, a number of, support requirements that they tap into our intelligence around how startups should be engaging, or how they should be building their businesses, etc. So we knew that in 2024 that this is a game changer way of doing things for startups. We've utilized business shows. We've learned from different events how they do it, but we've taken it a step further where we've penetrated education. We've given them the tools, the traits, the knowledge to now become confident founders. And it only took 1 day of empowerment to do this. And we did it 4 times in 2014. And 250 startups gave, I think probably 30, 40 of those startups worked with us throughout 2014. They're now high-performing founders. We do have NDA, so we don't necessarily talk about all of them. But this show, a mammoth queue of startups have tapped into our ecosystem. They just want to learn how to achieve client retention. It's big at the moment. How to achieve their sales growth, typical skills that we are working with them in an advisory capacity to build their businesses and protect them. So what Skills for Startups has done is actually we are now acting as their shields from negativity, from bullets, people saying, well, actually, you're not going to get the investment for this because so-and-so is doing it. This sort of, level of, feedback that came through from the startups community on where they want Skills for Startups to focus on has been a game changer for us. We are literally almost like a protector, a shield, because we know that as long as we protect these startups and give them the right advice and realistic solutions, they do not fall in the 98% failure rate. They continue. However long they continue, and they are consistent. Day in, day out, they are consistent. They are coming to our shows, they're learning the skills, and they are building their brand. That's the key. If they don't build their brand, they're not going to get traction. And that's what we're teaching at the moment. That's where we are this year. It's sales, it's growth, it's positive mindset, it's understanding how to turn negative situations or rejections into a positive situation. So we are essentially the shield for high-performing founders. We're protecting their entire ability to be the top startups in this country or globally. And that's why we are actually calling ourselves the voice for startups. So our business model is purely on looking at how many startups we can actually do deep dives with. Because those are the case studies that give us the credibility and the integrity to call ourselves the leaders in the startups,
right.
in startups expertise. So we look at endorsements, we look at sponsorships. Every time somebody endorses us as a partner, that gives us credibility, it gives us integrity. We have 33 businesses openly saying they work with skills for startups. We had about 4 sponsors last year, from venue sponsors right down to the actual sponsorship for our agenda and our program. Right. This year we've got a massive sponsorship deal in Washington DC that's just come through, and this lovely lady Taylor Francois is a mega entrepreneurship backer, especially female entrepreneurship, and securing an American business that's going to work in partnership with us from San Diego to London to Monaco is going to be a huge game changer. Our business model is based on endorsements, sponsorships, and that is very, and that's what gives us the credibility. So people who are our delegates will say, have you been to Skills for Startups? You need to go to Skills for Startups. Why? Well, they're turning the tide on startup failure. They're turning the tide on the numbers that are going to be surviving if there's another COVID-19 or if there's another situation that impacts business. I mean, tariffs is a big one from Donald Trump at the moment. How do we advise our startups? We are advising our startups. We do it through our partnerships. Yeah. So we have got to be on top of our game. So our business model is a very unique business model. Yes, we're commercial through endorsements and sponsorships, but we're also social impact. Every penny we achieve goes back to how do we build up more startups? How do we attract more startups? Eventually, we will be their shareholders. Eventually, we will be their equity partners. So we are going down that road as well. So for equity, we will be building businesses, more and more startups. And remember, we're trying to achieve 100,000 startups by 2034. So this is a multi-million-pound company. By 2027, we are going to be generating a lot of revenue, not just for startups in Britain, but startups globally.
Okay, wow. So a couple of things just to sort of unpack. I mean, this startup world, some of those issues we've been talking about for a few years, but also there's a lot of people already, a lot of stakeholders already claiming that the fact that they're supporting startups. You've got the banks, who've got their incubators. You've got your universities now who've got their element of it, and then you've got sort of government entities as well. Startup Britain and various others as well. So how do you see your role in terms of differentiating from some of the others, or how do you see that?
Clever education and skills. None of them are doing it. It's driven by an ex-Ofqual, ex-education regulator. Yeah. That's the difference. Is Skills for Startups might be looking at things more innovatively, but it builds down to the fact that the founder is ex-Ofqual, is ex-education regulation. None of these banks or incubators, none of them have that credibility that I have, which is that my bread and butter, my career has been education, but it's been how do I get standards into alternative learning to create high-performing founders so they don't fall into the failure rate. That's how unique we are. That's why we're unique. We're deep divers. Every single startup at our roadshow is catered for. Whether it's 100 companies that comes to our business show or 150, every single startup gets something out of our business shows, and we are improving every show. This is why San Diego is so important, because come June 13th to 15th, when we have 100 San Diego startups in that hotel resort, we are looking for mega partnerships and deals and education, high standard masterclasses to get these businesses to the next level. Some will be early inception, some will be becoming advanced, their next level of growth. Our job is to take care of every single company that comes to our business show. No university does what we're doing, which is we bring in mega industry leaders that are actually part of our program. Mega industry leaders that don't have MBAs, mega industry leaders that came from poverty and now are multimillionaires and billionaires through what? Practical solutions, through learning, right? Through learning through hardship, right? To turn their dreams, their ideas into mega businesses. That's skills for startups. That's skills for startups. That is Britain's very first mobile business school. We are not traditional. We're not competing with universities. We're not competing with incubators. We're not a bank. We're not handing out money, right? But we're getting them investment ready through the power of education and skills. They don't do that. We do. And not only that, we focus on high-performing founders. We turn around high-performing founders. They must be generating some revenue. There must be a step change when they join us. There must be a step change. And we will support as many starters as possible because we think every dream, every single dream is worth saving and it's worth bringing to fruition. Whereas you have caps on incubators and programs. At the end of the day, we have 1.2 million founders in this country, but these banks only take 100 odd entrepreneur every year. So what happens to the rest? Well, the rest should actually come to Skills for Startups because we can put on mega specialist shows driving their sector, driving their businesses. And it's my sector specialisms through the traditional academia, education world that's driving Skills for Startups. And you can't have, I can't express this hard enough to you, Safaraz. Skills for Startups is going to be a game changer in the next 2 to 3 years. A huge game changer globally.
Okay. So, Sophie, in terms of the offer itself, it's free. It's a free offer to the startup business.
Yeah, at the moment, what we're doing is we're attracting endorsements and sponsorships. We're about to feature in one of the top magazines. Yeah. In the next couple of weeks, called the Diamond magazine. And the reason why we're doing this is we're taking Skills for Startups now to the elite group to get powerful sponsorships and endorsements so we can keep our programs and our courses and our services cost effective for startups. Yeah. Because if we do what everybody else does, then there's no hope for startups. Because at that point, they are trying to generate revenue. Right? So they're trying to generate revenue and they may have a budget for Skills for Startups. Or they're trying to generate revenue and they might say, well, actually, we will want Skills for Startups to partner up with us to be part of our governing board or be a shareholder, etc. So we still have to, from a really strategic perspective, when I'm looking at my business strategy, we have to cater for all startups. Okay, some are poor, some are rich. Now we are tapping into the richer market. We've just come back from San Diego. We were at the Secret Knock. Now, the Secret Knock is one of the most powerful events I have ever been to. I've not seen anything like this in the UK. I kid you not, Safaraz. The number of multimillionaires and billionaires that founder attracted for Secret Knock is mind-blowing. Founder of Pictionary, founder of 7-Eleven and Blockbuster. Some of the most amazing people you would never meet walking down the street. We're under that one roof. And that gave me food for thought for Skills for Startups and the next level. So, yes, so we are absolutely at the moment on a very, very roller coaster journey, but we are evolving into probably one of the best shows, certainly in the USA and UK, what we're trying to champion here. We want to be one of the best go-to shows to upskill you. That's the key here, is to upskill you. But we've partnered up with some great leaders that understand show business. They understand show business, the elements, the skills of show business, and big platforms. Because one of the key things that Skills for Startups is going towards is, Safaraz, if you have a startup, you're not getting traction, you're not a big player, you don't have many followers on LinkedIn, right? You can use Skills for Startups as your stage to launch your idea now, because we can now bring in the crowds. Right. Do you see where we're going with this? It's an amazing, phenomenal business evolution that's taking place just behind the scenes that people don't know about.
Okay, fantastic. So, Sophie, we at the beginning of I spoke about some of the ventures you're involved with. So, you've got your Ignite Quals, you've got your Skills for Startups, and then you've got Edu Eco Plus, EE Plus. So, talk to us about the idea behind EE plus,
Yeah.
what does it do, and
Yeah.
bring us up to date in terms of that.
So if you imagine a jigsaw, with jigsaw there are pieces and they connect. EE Plus connects to skills for startups like a jigsaw. EE Plus is going to be our AI platform. So all startups that come through the business show,
Right.
they don't just have one day of empowerment with us and 13 skills or whatever, and loads of industry leaders, etc., that they can exchange business cards with. They end up in EE Plus. EE Plus is ongoing, on-demand learning for fast-track startups, really fast-paced startups. EE Plus is going to be your negotiator. It's going to be your supporter in consumer service. EE Plus is going to be a hub. It's going to be a virtual reality hub that allows startups to grow organically and naturally. It will provide everything from legal, insurance, all sorts of pitfalls that you might be facing, how to retain customer loyalty. We're going to start to bring in some of our partnerships into the ecosystem within EE Plus. It's going to have online, on-demand, short, targeted lessons for you that you don't want to be repeating, that other startups have actually shared with us. So it's an educational environment that is virtual, it's digital. Right. And the biggest element to EE Plus is that we're going to have this is where my vision is probably really big, and my board are trying to keep up, is that EE Plus will have a robotic system that could actually predict your KPIs and it will capture your KPIs and predict at what point you could possibly run out of money or hit a major barrier that could impact your startup from going any further. So it's going to be quite statistical, mathematical, but it acts as your business partner. So if you're a solo founder and you don't have a business partner or a co-founder, EE Plus's robot, Soraya, named after my mom, Soraya is going to be your business partner. Soraya is going to be the very first robotic business partner that will do what a human business partner does. And this is targeting solo founders, not founders that have business partners. Does that make sense? So if you're a founder and you're starting out on your own, Skills EE Plus is the game changer for you now.
Right. Okay. So basically, you're creating an AI tool, which is really your mentor. Is that?
It's borderline mentor, but a little bit more, because when you don't have anybody to, for instance, I've been quite on a lonely journey. I've never had, you probably think Safaraz have got all these people around, but they've never always been there. It's only recently we've started to attract some fantastic partnerships that are now our sounding boards. Right. But imagine if you're a founder and you're underconfident with marketing, so you're not getting traction, but you still need an advisor. Yeah. You still would want to, and you're fast track, fast paced. You'll tap and you are actually in the AI sort of mindset. EE Plus is for you, because EE Plus is set up already to advise you from your business, setting your vision, your mission, your business strategy, your first year KPIs, your second year KPIs. What are your objectives in the next 5 years? When do you want an investor in? All of this could be actually programmed by that robot.
Okay. So it's linked now to Skills for Startups. So these two are sort of side by side, yeah? Side
by side. Two powerful subsidiaries that are badly required, because if we're promising the world 100,000 viable startups by 2034, it requires two companies.
Right, okay. And the differentiator is that EE Plus is the platform, the tool.
It's the tool.
That's the tool. And the Skills for Startup is the agenda of the community.
Yeah, it's generating the community, and it's generating the pipeline for ongoing, on-demand educational support through EE Plus. So without Skills for Startups, EE Plus can't go on. Right. It will fail. Skills for Startups will do 12 business shows per year eventually. And they're going to be program-driven, skills-driven, driven by our industry leaders, the latest local economy issues, etc. they have to end up somewhere. They can't just go through that business show and then the support stops. The support doesn't stop. It actually ends up in EE+. So they become members of EE+, that virtual reality, and they use that virtual reality community to build their businesses further along and become advanced businesses. EE+ will work more with advanced startups. Does that make sense?
Thank you for that. So, Sophie, in terms of yourself now, I mean, you sort of slightly hinted the fact that you've got a board that thinks the fact that you think big. You do think big, and you've got a lot of these. Your passion, obviously, is as every time I've met you, you've always been extremely passionate about your projects that you're working with, and passion is half the battle, but again, it's the purpose and it's the mindset and it's also your leadership skills. So talk to us a little bit about how you as an individual, as a leader, as an entrepreneur have sort of adapted and changed, particularly in the last few years.
Oh, wow. I mean, I was a civil servant when I started out, and I looked at things completely differently when I was a civil servant in government. When I got out of that, when I, even when I started consulting, my mindset just changed. Life became much more broader, and I looked at companies and businesses, and I looked at, all these people going on this journey and ending up, creating the best product or the service. And I'm thinking to myself, this is what I've been thinking about since government. Why can't we innovate? Why can't we teach learners about innovation, science and creativity in a different way? And I think that's when I started to change and move away from the whole sort of conservative way of thinking to now thinking, well, actually, TikTok, Shopify, all these digital Gen Z platforms, these guys are making huge amount of money for the UK economy. They are the backbone of the UK economy, and they are just as worthy as these, PwCs, EYs. So my mindset has really changed, and it's really, I'm now more grassroots leadership than ever before. I'm openly saying this to a lot of people that I don't want to sit in boardrooms. And I know my board members are going to be listening to this. That is not my natural, that's not where Sophie Azam is naturally sitting anymore now. I'm no longer
hands-on, you're more hands-on.
No, you're right. I mean, I love seeing Juicy Vibes Healthy Smoothies is one solo entrepreneur we backed for a whole year. I loved going in to see her. Yeah. I loved looking at her business vision, her plans, bringing part, strategizing different partnerships, going into different gyms, getting a pop-up business all over the UK is what we're planning at the moment. She's got a gig in Pennsylvania. That's now driving Sophie Azam. And I think it's needed. I think Sophie Azam needs to be at the grassroots now, because more outcome and more successes are happening when I'm working with these founders. And the old Sophie was very advisory driven, very, that board level, I just came out from CMI after 6 years, and I'm glad that ended, because I'm thinking if they offered me for another 2 years, I think I would be stuck sitting just known for board advice. Yeah. Now people are seeing Sophie as a real contender in doing the job. Not only do I educate, do I produce the ideas and the products, I actually deliver them. So I'm working with founders.
It's a grassroots leader.
I'm a grassroots leader. I'm like Gandhi. Gandhi, Martin Luther King, Princess Diana.
You're rolling your sleeves up and you're actually doing it.
I'm actually doing some work,
So rather than telling, you're showing, rather than just talking.
But isn't it incredible evolving from being a confident advisor in the awarding world to now actually being on my own learner journey? Yeah. Trialing and testing skills of startups on me. I'm the guinea pig. Yeah. EE Plus is a startup where we're using the same skills we would teach founders on EE Plus. So we're testing it as well.
Yeah, you're walking through the sort of the model that you're creating and so forth. So Sophie, in terms of obviously, you've mentioned it, the fact that, a business is a lonely place, and people think that you've got all this network and so forth, and it's not always been like that, and it can be, a place, you can be quite vulnerable as well in terms of, a situation. You don't know, who to talk to, who to trust, who to open up to.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about how you've been able to get people to work with you as a single, a female leader, and trying to run a business which has got big ambition.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the classic evidence here is me sitting here talking to Safaraz Ali, one of the biggest business leaders in the West Midlands. That shows why we're making it, because we're sitting here in this chair talking about Skills for Startups. So Skills for Startups, is making it because and is bringing partners on board, because you wouldn't be sitting here interviewing me if we're not we're not proving to you that we're something special.
Yeah.
We don't care who the client is or the partner is.
Yeah.
I meet with everyone.
Yeah.
And I sell the vision.
Yeah.
And it was like this, and your audience really needs to hear this. Rejection, 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 acceptance, acceptance, acceptance.
Okay.
You're always going to get rejected when you first start. Oh, no, we don't. I got rejected by Lloyd's, Lloyd's TSB? Yeah, I got rejected by Lloyd's TSB. They wouldn't sponsor us, right? And that was, they back black businesses, right? I'm an Asian, I'm not black, but hey-ho. And I'm going to point that out to your audience. We got rejected by a bank, right? But now we've got Think Rise by Barclays, our venue sponsor for the foreseeable future in London. Okay, so it is rejection, 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 then slow acceptance, because nobody wants to hear something odd. Nobody wants to hear about the 98% failure rate in the USA or the 90% failure rate here. But I did speak about it in America, and I said I'm not going to apologize for it, because that's what Skills for Startups is built on. That's how we started to get our partnerships. The fact that this year we brought in some of the most incredible speakers in central London under one roof, and a charity partner, Rainham Food Bank, is now our charity partner, because we're trying to do a lot more with food wastage at events, because it's a mega problem at the moment. Attracting business leaders like them who are movers and shakers in Essex, larger parts of London, has been a game changer for Skills to Start. And it's proof that we're slowly being accepted as a unique concept in a world where the status quo doesn't budge. And it's not about my advice to everybody out there in the audience, whether you're an Asian business or a wider business, because it's the same. It doesn't matter who you are, black, white, green, yellow. You're going to face rejection. Doesn't matter who you are. There will always be rejection when you first start out. You must be resilient and must persevere, and you must go back and ask for feedback. That feedback has been a game changer for me, right? Because in the early years, I cried myself to sleep. Really? I said, because look, I've put £50,000 of my personal savings on the line, right, to begin with, under COVID-19.
Yeah,
this isn't going to work. I don't fit. Right? People are saying, people today say to me, how did you go from government to a TikTok sensation? Everybody sees you on TikTok. Everybody sees you on LinkedIn. How did you go from government to an entrepreneur?
Yeah.
It's unheard of. Yeah. I said, I learned my own skills that I'm teaching founders. Yeah. I put myself on the line. I put my reputation on the line. And I managed to turn those negotiation skills that you have in civil service. Yeah, I'm using them. I use them to get the partners. We are, working with the Better Hiring Institute. We're still in Parliament. We're still working with Parliament. We still root for startups at government level. Even though we're on grassroots, I'm still going to every Parliament invitation that comes to Skills for Startups. We're out there. Right? We want to be with the politicians. We want to talk about startups. Responsible Business Initiative for Justice in New York. We were invited to Parliament to look at entrepreneurship in the prison industry. Right. Massive gap there as well. So we're doing a lot of work here, and the partnerships are coming because of our credibility. We show up. We don't say to yourself, for us, we're coming, and we reject you. We show up.
You turn up, yeah. Okay. So So you were talking about the transition in terms of yourself, so a transition from a civil servant, compliance expert, a leader in your own field in terms of that quality, compliance, the knowledge, the theoretical, the academia, to the shift in terms of, the entrepreneur, problem solving, moving from sort of board level meetings to more hands-on. That transition's taken up a few years.
Yeah.
In terms of business leadership, has it come naturally to you? Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mainly because
I know your sister said you're a natural leader, but has it come naturally to you?
I feel like it has. Sometimes I question the definition of leadership. Yeah, and I think I've always been a leader, but I think I have been an emergent leader. In other words, I won't be the obvious sort of, right, I'm going to take charge of this. I've always been that sort of advisory, sort of those advisory skills that I picked up through CMI and various other companies that gave me the opportunity to advise them on compliance and regulation, has turned me into an emergent leader. And an emergent leader is a powerful leader, because when I lead, it will be at a time where I think there's a crisis about to happen. Otherwise, it's a very democratic ecosystem. Even my board is very democratic.
Yeah. Okay. So in terms of your style of leading others and coaching others and so forth, let's talk about sort of coaching and working with others and mentoring others. So there are three different things there.
Yeah.
But how had if I was one of your, say, mentees, how would you approach that in terms of what's your general?
First of all, I'm not a coach and a mentor.
You're not.
I don't mentor you. I don't coach you. I'm utilizing my experience, my qualifications, my skills, my background in education and standards, and turning you around. I want you to be the best business this country has ever seen. I want you to be the best founder this country has ever seen. It's not coaching and mentoring. I'm giving you objectives. I'm coming down to your shop. I'm coming down to your business, and I'm watching you. I'm watching how you operate. I'm watching how you attract your customers. I want to know the number of customers coming through every day, every week. I'm not a coach or a mentor. I'm not sitting here talking at you and then letting you go off and doing your own thing. You're part of the ecosystem. I want you to show me how you're performing. That's completely different from a coach and a mentor. I'm not mentoring you. It's your accountability. But I want to come down and I want to see what you're doing to turn your business as a true contender in the market. Because there's a saturated market out there in whatever you do. How can we make you into a unique business to turn you into a high-performing founder?
So it's data-driven.
Data-driven.
Numbers-led.
Numbers-led.
KPIs.
Yeah.
And it's also in a way trend analysis in terms of predicting where that is based on the numbers and the data.
Yeah. I think the winning formula is being a clairvoyant, knowing when you're going to pivot, knowing when you're going to possibly run out, knowing when you want to bring in an investor. I now know when I need as opposed to Ignite Quals, under Skills for Startups, I now know when I need an investor.
Right.
I now know, because I learnt from Ignite Quals.
Right, okay. So there's obviously lessons learned from the past, but also there's the trend analysis as well.
The trend analysis,
looking at the data, looking at the actions that are happening.
Yeah.
And therefore there's an element of
Yeah.
reading that data and accountability partnership. Yeah.
With a coach and mentor, they're very distant, because somebody tried to mentor me. No one can mentor me, and I don't know why. I don't know. I don't buy into it sometimes. But I went through a fast track sort of passport to something success, and I had to go through a mentorship element to that. And that lady was planting seeds in my head that was actually counterproductive to what I was trying to achieve for my first company. Yes. So it's almost being led by her perception of what she thinks I should be doing, not what I should be free flow building. That's why I said to myself, when we do Skills for Startups, we're not mentors, we're not coaches, we're not turning Juicy Vibes healthy smoothies into a cocktail bar.
Yeah,
do you see where I'm going with this? Juicy Vibes Healthy Smoothies is a powerful juice bar underlined by health and well-being. We don't go in and start to change things because sometimes that's what coaches and mentors try to do, because they look at your weaknesses, and then they start to perhaps turn that vision into something it shouldn't be. So maybe that's my experience, or I don't know if other businesses have had similar experiences, but we're not mentors or coaches. We actually take on accountability too when we are building that founder's confidence.
Okay, so this is that sort of, if I can call it a champion's mindset in terms of,
it's like being
sort of,
absolutely.
it's a winning mindset.
Winning's mindset, yeah.
Okay, so one of the things I wanted to sort of really touch on is your work in terms of diversity, equity, inclusion. So when I think of your good name, there's a number of sort of pigeonholes that I might put you in, even though people say that's not a good thing, but you sometimes relate the name to an agenda or a cause. So obviously you got your entrepreneurship, you got your awarding body compliance and so forth, but you've got this DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, or EDI, however you want to pronounce it, in terms of that aspect of it. Plus you've got that women sort of pushing more women into sort of leadership and entrepreneurship. So talk to us a little bit about your work with the IOD and the DEI sort of initiative.
DEI and belonging is education driven too. So it's all connected to the education world. And for me, equity, diversity, inclusion and belonging has always been at the forefront of every activity I did. Every career I had, equity, diversity, inclusion and belonging was very, very important. I believe in an education system that is accessible to all walks of life.
Yeah.
And now I believe that starting a startup business should be for everybody. Everyone should have a fighting chance of creating an idea or living their dream or improving their circumstances, because business can be a force for good. And now we look at, when we look at Skills for Startups and we work with founders, it just naturally happens, Safaraz. All our board is diverse.
Yeah.
All our partnerships are diverse, from young entrepreneurs right up to, black businesses want to now work with us. We have 3 more black businesses coming on board in the fashion industry and various other areas. All our sponsorship deals have come from diverse leaders, women. We don't make a point about it. It just naturally happens. And I think that's the success of our enterprise. The success of our enterprise is that we have proven to everybody that equity, diversity, inclusion is in the DNA of this enterprise. That every speech we do, every podcast we do, everything we state on LinkedIn, TikTok, various other social media platforms attracts diverse leaders now. Yeah. Naturally, people knock on at my door and say, can we use your platform for X? We're having problems with attracting investment, etc., etc. We want your help. And they just naturally attracted to Sophie Azam, who maybe they've looked at my background. I don't know. I can't specify, but we are growing into a very diverse ecosystem, and I am so glad that people can see this evolution. Yeah. They can see it for themselves. That when I worked with Institute of Directors and I was made national spokesperson for equity, diversity, and inclusion, that job was given to me because of my credentials, and now people can see how qualified Sophie is in ED&I and belonging, because her own business, from the board right down to the grassroots ecosystem, the founders we work with, are all diverse. Our last Road Business Show attracted so many young girls from the Muslim community who have business ideas, and our students at the moment. It was incredible to watch that on the video clips, to see how diverse we have become. I hadn't even realized until I saw that clip of how diverse the audience was. So it's incredible, that now people can say, well, actually, Sophie Azam was the right person for the national spokesperson job, because She has led by example, and she's gone away and divorced from the IOD, and is now doing it for herself and creating a brand new membership for early inception ventures, and she's doing it the right way, and it's organic as well. It's not forced. We don't have to talk about equity, diversity, inclusion anymore.
No. So try and bring things a little bit to a close, if I may, Sophie. I mean, in terms of the sort of the next 6 months, say, what does the agenda look like? Just in terms of this year, say.
I think the agenda is absolutely primarily focused on the international market position for Skills for Startups as this incredible mobile business school that hits maybe about 6 states.
So United States, so it's predominantly USA this year.
Yeah, so San Diego is our first pilot, and we're aiming for about 120 to 150 companies. And then what we have is we have a virtual facility. So UK businesses can now join the headline show of all the high-profile famous speakers we have on board. So we do have the capacity to take on probably 1,000 delegates online to watch the show live from San Diego. So it'll be live streamed. And we're promoting that globally now to UK businesses, Malaysian businesses, Australia, all sorts. So, yeah.
Okay, so that's the Skills for Startups. Obviously, you're just winding down the awarding organisation in terms of that transition of the exit, because that takes a little bit of time as well in terms of the transition.
Yeah.
Is that's this year, I take it?
Yeah, so the transition is nearly complete. So the legal process is coming to an end. The final contract's coming through to myself to sign off. And then Ignite Quals will be transferred over to the new buyer, the brand, the intellectual property, the company's house access, everything. All the data is going to go over in the next week or so. And that cash is going to go into Skills for Startups for the next set of shows in the United States of America. And we're doing Monaco as well in this year.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, so Monaco is massive at the moment with the AI tech startup space.
Okay.
So we're putting on a one-day show there as part of a partnership with a wider conference.
Right.
So that's going to be a huge traction for UK businesses to come to Monaco. It's just down the road. It's France, very cost effective. But what you will get out of it is incredible business deals, because Monaco is a rising startups ecosystem at the moment, and we're getting in there first.
Okay. So we've got the United States, we've got Monaco on the agenda this year. You've got your, you mentioned previously Malaysia is a place that you feel there's a lot of opportunities.
So after doing London again on 17th of November, so if people want to come along to the London's business show, please do so. You'll see what we can do live. And advanced businesses get a lot out of this as well. So we don't just get startups, we do get advanced businesses coming to us as well, to our show. So we will be back with Rise Barclays on 17th of November, and then Monaco the following week. And then we're looking at building EE Plus as well, getting the digital side working and put into place. And we're working on our membership structure for EE Plus for early inception ventures and mid to advanced startups to start to build a ecosystem within that digital platform. So that is happening concurrently for the next 6 months as the shows are advancing. And hopefully EE Plus will then have a platform towards the end of the year to actually launch the actual app. So it will be an app for you to download, for you to be part of the education and the learning resources. So that's going to be quite excited. But next year, we want to do Malaysia, a four-city show around April. So our target is to work with Whipped, is one of our partners. They scale up startups and other businesses, export them out to Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore. And because we already did the trade mission with Whipped, the Deputy Minister of Economy in Malaysia is interested in Skills for Startups, and There's a appetite for a 4-city roadshow from Kuala Lumpur to three other areas in Malaysia, where businesses and entrepreneurship is very important to the local economies. And again, Malaysia is a rising AI tech startup ecosystem, but they do look at other soft skills for businesses. So it could be a great project for us to get our teeth into. But UK and USA are predominantly the heart and soul of the business strategy.
Right.
Yeah, but we will have those one-offs with Malaysia and Monaco to raise the brand and get the brand on a global level, because that's the key to success, is to never say no to an opportunity. The opportunity comes knocking on your door, you make it happen, because you don't know where your business is going to go.
Right. Okay. So it's not sitting on a beach at the moment. You've got full speed ahead in terms of the next phase of your journey.
Yeah, we would love to have more sponsorships, more endorsements. From all sorts of businesses are looking at traction and looking at possibly supporting these startups on commission or equity. This is a fantastic opportunity for more advanced businesses and corporations to get involved with Skills for Startups as well.
Sophie, I want to thank you for your time today. Thank you for sharing your thoughts, and I wish you well on your journey. If you want to share any additional thoughts as some last few moments from yourself, then that would be appreciated as well.
I think it's so important for businesses and certainly for your audience who listen to you to always dream and to not give up on your dreams and never take negativity or rejection as your cliffhanger or your end game. Does that make sense? I think it's so important for people to have those important skills like resilience and perseverance, because that's what's going to be a game changer for startups. That's the difference between those that fail and those that make it in this country and internationally. It's those who are resilient. So please do stay resilient in the business world. You can always tap into my expertise anytime.
Thank you, Sophie. Thank you for your time.